Approximately 22 veterans and active duty service members commit suicide each day. Since 1999, suicide rates increased by over 30% in 2016, with what is estimated as an increase again in the past year due to the current withdrawal from Afghanistan. Suicide is a worldwide epidemic that is the second leading cause of death amongst adolescents and young adults. It contributes to 50% of all violent male deaths and 71% of all violent female deaths. In 2014, suicide ranked the 10th leading cause of death with over 40,000 suicides reported per year. Of that, 22% of suicides are done by veterans. In 2017, it was estimated that suicides have an economic impact of $44 billion due to the work productivity lost and medical costs. For the first time since 2008, overall suicides amongst service members have surpassed the general population. Before the Iraq and Afghanistan wars, military suicides were 25% lower than the general population. The Army and the Marines are the fastest growing branches for suicides, doubling in 4 years. There are 2.2 million veterans from the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. Our rapid reduction in military forces find veterans another challenge: coming home.
So on the cover of Time magazine in 2012, right after Colton died, was a soldier with a bugle talking about the high rate of military suicide. And the last couple of years, even with all the efforts, it's skyrocketing, which is on par with the national average of just civilian suicide is going up. So South Dakota had the highest. South Dakota's suicide rate was 33% 2 years ago.
For one family, they experienced firsthand the effects of suicide, as Colton Levi Derr took his life on April 28, 2012. Here's the story of the Sergeant Colton Levi Derr Foundation, a nonprofit organization devoted to helping our veteran population in their time of need. Colton Derr grew up in rural western South Dakota. He was talented and worked hard in everything he set his mind to. When he decided to join wrestling, his very first year, he went to the AAU Nationals in Detroit, Michigan, and was the national champion. He had success in the sport of rodeo, and he grew up around horses and livestock his whole life. After high school, he joined the Army Reserves and attended college at St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. It was during that time that he was deployed to Iraq in 2008. How his story is different is his dad, Jerry, was also serving in Iraq as a contractor during that time. As a parent, it brought some assurance, as he had an employee tied to Colton's squadron that could report daily. Eventually, they both returned back stateside. However, Jerry recognized some of the changes in Colton.
When he was home on leave from his mission in Iraq, that I recognized, and he and I talked about it. And a lot of it was just normal. No, when you come back, I'm jumpy, so no, your reaction to stuff's not unusual. And so this is all kind of normal. And so anyway, we talked about it, recognized it, and then is when he was going through a divorce and stuff, and his marriage fell apart. And I recognized, some major signs of PTSD and depression. So we chatted about that, and then he started he went down to he was at Fort Hood at that point in time, and was going through the military chain of command to get some treatment at Fort Hood, which was not supported. And so it just kind of like, you really don't want to do that, and, you don't want to flag your record, that type of deal. So while he was battling his PTSD and going through his divorce, he decided the best way to handle that was to move.
Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. PTSD has symptoms recognized by the DSM-5. They include re-experiencing, avoidance, negative alterations in cognitions and mood, such as numbing, and alterations in arousal and reactivity. In 2011, 900,000 soldiers from Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Iraqi Freedom were separated from their branches of service. Of those, 42% estimated at $378,000, sought care at a Veterans Affairs facility, with 45%, estimated at $170,100, diagnosed with PTSD or a psychiatric disorder. At the help of his father, one who sought help that year was Colton.
And so I got him to go into his chain of command and seek help, and then they're the ones that flagged him and said, PTSD, severe depression, suicidal, non-deployable. But he was so mission critical that leadership at that time said, well, monitor soldier in theater, and so he didn't finish up again with his mental health treatment. The military said, no, we're not doing that. And so he deployed to Afghanistan. Even though he was marked non-deployable, they took him. And I knew, again, getting back to it, Kate, what you're asking me is, I knew that when he was in Afghanistan that everything would be all right. So I knew he would be okay because he would take care of the mission. 12 in March, when he got stateside, that's when I knew that I was going to be in trouble, and we talked about it when he came home at Easter.
It took 6 weeks after Colton's return from Afghanistan until he took his life. Social support is vital for healthy functioning when dealing with PTSD. The lack of social support increases risk behaviors and negatively affects recovery. Several PTSD symptoms cause dysfunctional communication and relationships. Low social support assists in the formulation of suicidal thoughts. Joyner's interpersonal theory of suicidal behavior indicates that suicidal ideas come from the individual's thoughts of burdening others, feeling as they don't belong, and hopelessness.
Such a rock star and fearless, and part of the fearless part came from the fact that, he was suicidal when he was in mission and didn't really care whether he lived or died. So, and he was just a rock star. That's kind of, an example of what he was his whole life. Not that he was, not flawless. But when he came back, and then again, you don't have a mission, you don't have your brothers, and life hits you.
The VA can play an important role in suicide prevention, as 50% of veterans attended an appointment in the previous month before a suicide attempt, compared to only 20% that seek help from a mental health facility.
I had no idea the suicide rate was that high in the military or veteran populace, and so, it was after Colton's death, you start second guessing. What should have I done? How come how could this happen in my family? And then you start looking at it and realizing it was basically an epidemic. And when I was in Iraq, I saw the military when I was over there was not taking care of the soldiers and their mental health when I was in Iraq.
In addition, with the family dealing with Colton's death, they were also faced with another challenge. The shipping company responsible for sending Colton's belongings back to his parents had stolen many of his valuable resources and belongings, such as his medals, ribbons, safe, and a knife collection his dad Jerry had gave him at a very early age.
Okay, I was in Iraq. I had these connections. I have a law enforcement background. I have a penchant to be an ass when I need to, sometimes when I don't need to. And so, we just sat down as a family, and after a couple of weeks, I'm like, what about, somebody that doesn't have my background? What about somebody that, maybe they're, a single mother with, this is her oldest child, and they have kids at home, and the military says, they're like, no. I said, they're just going to take it. And I said, that's not right. So I just didn't want Colton's death to be in vain. And I knew the struggles that we as a family went through. With all of that, that's really why the foundation got formed, is because we wanted to be a resource because we knew there were so many stopgaps out there.
The Colton Levi Derr Foundation was established in July of 2012, ran by a board of directors comprised of Colton's brothers and sisters. Since 2014, they have averaged assisting 3 to 4 veterans a week throughout the U.S. with helping mitigate legal issues, financial support, paid mortgages, moving assistance, initiated treatment options and recommendations, transportation for veterans for better treatment options, clothing, cell phones, and have established connections with psychiatrists locally to help veterans. In 2022, they will launch a weekly podcast that addresses PTSD issues and resources. As we look at the ending of the Afghanistan war, we are faced with the consequences.
Just the Afghanistan withdrawal triggered a lot of the vets that were Middle Eastern vets employed, and so it was another trigger point for them. And so yeah, it's kind of had a huge impact on mental health, and then you began to so I was deployed over in Afghanistan, and I lost a lot of my brothers and sisters when I was active and over there. And and again, just like with anything, in life, you question, was it worth it? Was it the right decision? I'm home. I got my legs blown off. I don't have any arms. So what was it for?
Mm-hmm. The Derr Foundation raises money through a number of ways. As Colton was an avid horseman, they have stood 3 stallions that the breeding fees are used to support the foundation. One stallion was recently purchased by South Dakota State University to be used in their equine program. In addition, the stallion will also create awareness to the organization. They also have a fundraiser once a year called the Gallantly Forward, a banquet and silent auction that recognizes those who help the cause of fighting PTSD, but also raise money to further their mission. They have done golf tournaments, 5K walks, and CrossFit challenges. Throughout the year, they raise awareness to issues and challenges that one faces when they return home by talking to local civic groups. Through the sacrifice that the Derr family has faced, they have also made an impact. Prior to Colton's death, they recognized the shortcomings of family support, as state government and state congressional staff was never notified of a fallen soldier within one state. This impacts how communities can support families at their time of need. Although Jerry faced multiple challenges, he has impacted the need for better mental health for veterans. State governments are now notified, and the shipping company that stole Colton's belongings had their government contracts frozen. One advice Jerry had was for the people to reach out to others that are struggling and to start the conversation.
Go up to somebody and, it's not, if you think somebody is struggling, they are, and not just go, hey, is everything okay? Everything's great. Okay, check that box, move on. It's starting that dialogue and going, I don't think everything's okay, and I'm here to listen. No judgment. And that's the hardest thing that people do just in general, is just shut up and sometimes just listen.
To learn more about the Sergeant Colton Levi Derr Foundation, or to become involved, go to www.sergeantderrfoundation.org.